Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. Those of you that are first timers, let me set the stage. This is to talk about ways to be great. And where that comes from for me is I believe we all have something in us. I read a book by an author of a coach of mine, and he says that there's only 1% difference in everybody in the world. And in that 1% is that potential to be average or to be great. And I believe with everything in me that we are not put on this earth to be average. We are supposed to be great, whatever that means for us, that the Creator built into our futures, built into our motivation, built into our thinking, that He built us a certain way to be great, the way He meant for us to be great. So, that being said, I'm doing yet another solo podcast. It's, as you know, it's Father's Day month. It's also Men's Health Month, and that has a lot to do with mental health and physical health and all that for men. And I resonate with both of those things. As you all know, I'm father of 7, grandfather of, let's see, in a month, not even a month, it'll be 18 grandkids. And man, am I happy about that. So let's get started with the podcast and the subject of the day, which is basically mindset. The best way, here's the catchphrase, the best way to total health is intentional thinking. And I'll call it this subject, I'll call it mindset. That we need to have the right kind of thinking that energizes what we're supposed to be, energizes our possibilities, energizes our potential greatness. So it being the month that we consider what fathers look like, please tune in to last week's episode about how to be a good father. I thought it came through pretty well, got some good feedback. So please tune into that, especially you fathers and maybe you mothers that needed a broader perspective, because part of it's about things like dad guilt and these kinds of things. We can have the same thing about men's health. Men, we can have a lot of guilt over not doing life very well for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our family, for the sake of our future. But let me get into a couple of things that I've heard recently. I heard about a study that was done amongst the top, I don't know how many 100 or so players in tennis. And this was a number of years ago. And they looked at what's the difference between the top 5 and all the rest. And of course, the difference got broader as they went down the list, away from that 5 to the 50th and the 100th on that list. But the top 5 did these things: is they had a positive mindset, and they had positive self-talk, and they had I don't love that term. It's too a little bit too modern for me, but they said things to themselves about their possibility, about their activity and their ability that were positive. Now, I could say all the positive in the world, and I'll still, at 60, 5 foot nothing. 5 foot, I was 5'10" and more like 5'9" now, after back surgeries and all this. I will never be and never had the potential to be an NBA player. Never is probably a stretch because maybe in the right circumstances with the right hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of hours of practice, I might have made it for a flash. But I did not have the physical ability when I was young. I didn't. I got more physical ability as I got into my late 20s and 30s. And that's not when you become an NBA player. You become that early by enhancing the ability early in life. Same with football and the other things that I have loved in my life. But the five top players, they identified by interviewing them what they thought when they made a bad shot. And their comment was, okay, just wait till the next one. I missed that one, but wait till the next one. Now they were truthful. They were transparent with themselves. They were authentic with themselves and those around them. And yet, what came out positive, what made the biggest difference is that they said, but I can do better. I'm going to do better next time. And they got after it and did the thing. That they put themselves in a position of saying, I've worked harder than the other. I've practiced harder. I've done more hours. In the case of Kobe Bryant, it's a fairly well-known fact that he believed he wasn't the most talented player in the league, but if the team did two practices a day, he did three, and he just outworked everybody. And for the 19 years, I think it was that he was in the league, that was his rhythm, and he kept hiring coaches and body coaches and um, psychology coaches and physiology coaches, and he just wanted to be sharp all the time. And I never loved him as a player because I'm the fan of an opposing team. That he just bothered me because he was so good. Never was much of a fan of his, but now that I've read a book about him and some other things, I do respect the kind of work ethic it takes to be that guy that is so good. Another example, there's a a small group at work that is negative is probably a stretch, but see things from a more negative bent. It's critical. In probably the critical part is really a good way because it's not it's not pessimistic to be realistic necessarily. Although if you're realistic and you continue to be realistic, uh, put that in quotes, you might end up on the pessimistic side. And there's some at work that they're in a position in the job, in the company that I help run, that have to see the issues before they arise. They have to be critical about, well, what are the possible problems that are going to arise? And what comes out of that sometimes is this feeling that no matter how good the work order is written, how easy the job is, that it's just not good enough, that there's always a list of problems that go with it. Now, some of that comes with the position, and some positions are much that way. I have been around several that are that way too, and I was trying to think which ones. Um, Often police have to be that way. They have to be predictive about the things that could go wrong. There was a time in my life where I was in an emotionally bad place, and I predicted all the things that were going wrong, and I would lay in bed at night and predict the things, and so how I was going to react when this thing happened and that thing happened. And there was a lot of bad stuff going on in my life at the time, and that's the reason that I felt like I needed to lay awake and predict these things and build mechanisms for how I'm going to solve these problems that I was sure were going to be created, and most of them didn't. I heard a funny thing a couple of years ago that said people that worry are right 96% of the time. And you say, what? Well, it's because they worry about things that aren't going to happen, but their attitude is such that they either create more worry or they actually breathe life into the issue. And that is something terrible. That's something we shouldn't do for our own mental health, our own men's health. There's enough in life, especially in men's life, of that are hard and difficult things that we should be far more careful about the thoughts that are in our head. The coach that I was mentioning earlier that mentioned the 1%, he calls himself the think coach. The challenge that I have for all of you men in regards to men's health month and it's physical, mental, psychological, all of those things, is he basically implies that we need, if we're going to have a great legacy, then we need to think about that legacy and where we're going. I believe I mentioned on the last episode that as being a good father is that it's good to look out 20 years. And I've mentioned this several times on many of these episodes. And that's one thing that I'm going to keep saying. And that I'm actually looking out 50 years and 100 years, like what's going to happen after I'm gone? And how is my core values, how is my name, basically the name I leave? And it's not my first name, it's my last name, the family legacy. How am I going to pass that to the next generation and then the one after that and the one after that? And not just the how, but what am I going to pass? And I have to think about that legacy. Now, some of those things are a little bit arbitrary. There's no way to predict and know what they're going to be. And yet, if we never begin thinking about them, then we just end up not doing anything. A couple of examples of that to me are a little bit frustrating when we talk about Father's Day, Grandfather's Day, this month about men is retirement. And I put a question mark behind that. What is retirement? It's not biblical. It's a concept that is more of a 20th century thing. Now, retirement did happen some over the millennia the world has been around, but not that we don't check out of our grandkids and our great grandkids' life. That's not the way it was done. Not the way it's ever been done. Now, don't interpret me as somebody that holds on to the past as if tradition is the only way, but I am certain that retirement, being a 20th century or at most a 19th century thing, is really not the way God put us together and desires to have that mindset and that kind of laziness in our old age. I know some people that have retired and have gotten to be, a few of them go around and they help widows and orphans. In scripture, we're commanded to do those things, and those are good things. So should I put those in my schedule? Yeah. Yeah, I need to visit the people that are needy. Absolutely. I need to take care of that portion of this world and do my best to be helpful. 100% yes. But if that's all I do, then I don't create legacy. I can go change light bulbs for widows all day long. But if I'm not gleaning from them the things that ignite the people that are around me every day, then I'm wasting my time. So I stand a little bit in judgment, I suppose, of those that have retired and all they want to do is drive around the United States. Now, if you have a purpose, an intentional purpose behind it, okay, that's fine. I actually completely support that. You want to go visit friends, you want to encourage them, you want to enhance their spiritual lives and give them more of God and a deeper relationship, and then help them enhance their relationship with their let's say their children and grandchildren, because you are intentional about it, then absolutely yes. But that comes with thinking. And I learned a little bit of this from my think coach. And he says, no, thinking is the key to moving forward in life to the legacy that you want to provide. And you have to think deeply about what that is. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, in about a week and a half or so, we have an appointment with somebody where we start digging in. It happens to be an attorney. So there's actually legal ramifications to how we build legacy from a tax and finance standpoint. Now, we don't have a lot of money, but there is some things to pass along. And how do we want those to pass? And do we want those to, if there's enough, perhaps to spoil the next generation or the generation after that? Do we really want that to happen? And we have to decide, we have to think and decide ahead of time how that's going to work. And so for you younger people that are listening, I have a challenge for you. I regret not starting this when I was in my 20s and 30s. I was working, I was raising kids, I was providing for the family, protecting the family, and loving to the best of my ability. But what I was missing is that longer view of what about when my kids are in their 30s? All of them are in their 30s, and there's some in the 40s. And then the way it is right now, I have one that's 40 all through the 30s and one that's 28. So had I started thinking about that 28 years ago after my last one was born, I would be much, much better off today. And I would challenge you to do that very thing. I also heard some people say recently in regards to retirement, some people my age say that, no, I live my life. I I'm not gonna deal with the kids anymore. Okay, well, I don't see how that could even be possible. I live for the kids, the younger kids, the next generation. But that's the way I was built, and I understand that that's part of my core values is that I learn and I spend time, intentional time with my family, with my wife, my family, and that I gain wisdom and give wisdom. And that's the best group to give it to. So that's what I do. But what I don't want to do is what I've heard other people say is that no, I contributed for 30 years, 40 years, whatever it was. And now I'm done contributing. I got nothing to give. And that is just patently untrue. Is that actually the older we get, the wiser we are. And not just become, because we are becoming wiser. If we're getting the right input, then we are wiser as we go along. And we should pass it to someone. Basically, in the model of Jesus and his disciples, walk beside people that need something, that need more wisdom. And as you're building wisdom in yourself, then pass what you do have, the things that you're solid on, and then learn more as an act of humility in front of those and with those that are also learning from you. So interesting that the two presidential candidates are right now are both in their mid to late 70s. And the one thing I like about both of them is that neither one of them has stopped. I don't really care for either one of them, to be honest, but neither one of them has stopped. And they are an example of how to build a life and then keep going relentlessly. Now, whether or not it's for good, bad, or evil, that's for history to record. But the point is that many U.S. presidents have been presidents in their 70s, and I think it's a good thing to have that wisdom sitting in the Oval Office. And hopefully, there is wisdom in one of the two, and that it comes out better for the country. That being said, I heard that there was a study done, I believe it was Duke University, a number of years ago, that the most productive decade in the average life in regards to legacy, and that's wealth building, that's wisdom building and sharing, that's I think that part of it was writing books, life satisfaction. All of that was the most from 60 to 70. And the second one was 70 to 80. And the third one was 50 to 60, whatever metrics they use to do that. And I believe that I'm in the best decade. I just turned 61 last week, and I am in the best possible decade to literally fill up not only my life, but those around me. I'm asking you, begging you to think about it that way. Doesn't matter what age you are, if you're teens, early 20s, it's time to start thinking, use your head, and then by using your head, you can decide then where your heart goes and be intentional about the way you live your life and the way that you present health to others and help others be healthier. So men, get healthy. First of all, with God. Second of all, physically, and those things are actually tied together. Because if you're overweight or you're a slug or you're completely out of shape, then and you feel like God doesn't really like that, well, you're right. So start moving, move more, eat less. I heard that a number of years ago, and I believe it's 100% true. Move more, eat less. And if you eat more and you like eating, then move a lot more. You can't outrun your fork, is what my doctor has said. And yet, just move more. Maybe reduce the number of meals or the size of the meals, but move more. You were built for amazing things. No doubt about that. And you have everything it takes to have everything in life that you should have, that God built in you, that God's put around you. And it may not perfectly fit your dreams. Your dreams may have been off a little bit. Not that you adjust completely the ultimate dream, but a little bit of realism, but mostly optimism is what you need in regards to where your life is headed and how much more you have to give. So go give back and get healthier and have a great Father's Day and Men's Health Month. We're a little over halfway done with it. Now, the call to action. Again, it's a thinking and doing. You go and be this thing. Now go be great.